Hello, this is the Analog Park podcast, episode number 7. And my guest today is PIOTR NABIELEC. PIOTR is a productivity expert, a slow living advocate, and an author of a productivity course on Udemy with an astonishing number of positive reviews. PIOTR has 10 years of experience as a programmer and as a manager, and since 5 years he's teaching productivity and organization. Hello, PIOTR.
Hello, Jerzy.
How are you today, PIOTR?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I love podcasts, so
we are starting a second time because I have forgotten to play to push the record button. And so the first question I have for you is what was first in your life, productivity or music?
If you're asking about passion for those things,
I'm asking what was first on the time scale.
I think I started playing music when I was maybe my first memories are when I'm 8 and I take a guitar.
Okay.
My brother was learning how to play, and I thought I'm gonna try as well. So probably music was first. the productivity adventure started. I dated as 2004.
Okay.
That was one semester of studies in Denmark, and I read, and I had a course on project management. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I realized we can do a very good job in defining what we want to do and how we want to do it. And then if it's all well organized, there's less stress and, everything's on time. And that was a concept, like you can organize your time. That was new to me. I was, maybe 20 years old at that time, 22, I think. And so that started a passion of reading about it, of looking at other people, how it works. And then I joined one company and another company. And I love that observation, how people work and how does it happen that people have more or less the same skills, but some achieve like 10 times more than the others, or the teams. Okay, the teams nearly equally skilled, and suddenly they achieve much more than the first team. And these differences were always curious to me, and I'm studying it for the last maybe 15, 20 years. So I think that was second, but then music I never did it like professionally or thought about it to make it more, and that's becoming part of my life starting this year. So I think productivity, in that manner, productivity was first, because I have my own company dealing with only, let's say, productivity trainings and consulting for the last 5 years, and music is just last few months. Like if you think about dealing with it, let's say professionally.
Okay. I'm asking about music because there is a story connected to a famous Polish pianist, Leszek Możdżar, who apparently was a guest at your second concert. Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, can you tell the story? Because the story is unbelievable, I think.
Yes, story is unbelievable. So I started with February this year, my birthday, and I opened my bucket list and I realized there's so many things about music and I don't do much about it. And there's this dream of playing a concert in a large hall, like Sala Kongresowa in Warsaw. Mm-hmm. And with my playing that is usually performed at the fireplace with a couple of people, I thought I'm never going to get there. And so this starts the journey. And I thought, what are the musicians that inspire me the most? What is the music that I really feel? And then I order a hang drum. I used to play drums for the last few years. And then I order a hang drum, which has a beautiful sound. And I think that's my instrument. I order a looper and a few other pieces of equipment. And then I think about playing a concert in June for a group of friends. Just let's start with this. I think projects can help me have the specific goal in mind that has an outcome. Mm-hmm. But of course, it always comes back to making a habit. I just want to have habit of regular playing and having fun with that, and maybe create songs. And this project of concert is just, let's say, a motivator. And so 2 weeks after this equipment came to me, there was a COVID lockdown. So I had a lot of time to practice. All my classroom trainings canceled. Many of my friends left their cities to join their families. I was more or less at home having a lot of free time, and I thought, okay, I'm going to build a studio at home for video, because maybe video trainings will be the next step. Mm-hmm. But also I practiced a lot of music, and so that's the beginning of the story. Then I really played this concert in June for a group of 12 people that were here in this room that I'm here right now. And so there was a great surprise for them, because they didn't expect anything like that. There was a lot of drums and this hang drum sound they didn't expect, and they loved it. And one of these 12 people that I invited was an acro yoga instructor. An acro yoga is, let's say, physical activity that I do. Okay. And Tomek was organizing a trip for a group of people to the mountains so we can practice together. A group of friends, basically, that want to spend some time and be in nature and just do some fun with acro yoga. And because he was, he liked the concert so much, he thought, Piotrek, maybe you can play, the concert surprise to everyone. And I agreed. So that was my plan for the second concert. And 2 days before the trip, he let's say, told me that Leszek Możder is going to join, which was like, what? What? Like, how does that happen? And
have you believed him, or you thought that it was a joke?
Yeah, I believed him, because he said, okay, Leszek Możder is going to join. Yes, this Leszek Możder. And at first I thought, okay, it's not going to happen. And even if it happens, he probably won't join the concert, because there will be many more activities. Mm-hmm. But, he just had a friend there. So one of the people in the group turned out to be his friend. Mm-hmm. And because I think he was tired of being famous, and everywhere he goes, it's like, oh, Leszek. He wanted to be among people that he can get some rest, I think. That's how I got this. And so he joined. I didn't believe that for the last moment. And then he joined the concert. And I get feedback from him, which I probably will remember till the end of my life.
What was the feedback? Can you share it?
So let's say two parts. First, that encouraged me to play a little bit better, because the first night we had a time to play together. He was playing a guitar and having fun with that. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like, look at how professional I am. He even said that he doesn't want that. He's got enough of that in his life. So he's just having fun with the guitar and singing and playing with us. Mm-hmm. And I joined on another guitar and cajon, which is a type of drum. And the next day during breakfast, my friends that know him told me that, Piotrek, that Leszek told about you that you're a very good musician. So I was like, oh, wow. So self-worth +1. But then in the evening, there was a plan for me to play a concert, and he joined. Mm-hmm. And after the concert, he was curious about few elements of it and how I did that, because I use a lot of synth instruments that sound very naturally. This is also a drum that is the Korg. That's for musicians. Korg made wave drum as something that acts as a drum, but you can change the sound of it. And he didn't know that, so he was really curious about it. But then it was so good to hear about that. All these elements were put with a great sense of taste, all the instruments together, all the rhythms, and that you can feel that it wasn't like random pieces put together, but a well-thought form of over an hour of playing as, let's say, one big tune.
So you will not have imposter syndrome later on when music.
I don't know. I don't know. It's a nice thing is that, the first two concerts were played in front of a group of friends, let's say. And even him, he wasn't like, a random person coming in like, oh, Leszek. He was just another friend of friend. And so it probably helped me a lot. But yeah, hearing, every time I probably will have some imposter syndrome, I will probably come back to those days and say, if Leszek told that, that's probably what I should believe in.
Yeah. So what a story. What a story.
I love it. I love it.
And so this is about music. So maybe in the future you should consider switching careers and becoming a musician.
Yeah, that's future is, you never know it. I think my passion is always also dealing with productivity and also helping people live maybe more slow life than they used to, because productivity usually is connected with doing more, doing faster, like, all these guys that and girls that, exchange podcasts all the time, read to hundreds of books and ambitious goals, and then you just
KPIs and measuring and achieving more.
Yeah, then you feel like even guilty and ashamed being among such people, because they push so hard and you just want to lie down and, watch a TV series or do nothing. And in some ways you feel guilty about that you don't push as hard as they do. And so that's also my big passion, to bring this, let's say, real productivity to life of people. That means you achieve a lot, but at the same time, you're just a happy human being, connected to your values, connected to your emotions. And that's my big passion. I don't think I'm able to live without it, and knowing how much value it brings to the life of people. But music was a big passion for me for many years. And so I think that would be like two big foundations for the rest of my life, I think.
Music can certainly be a part of what is called slow living, because it feeds the soul and it lets you recharge your batteries in a way. But can you please tell me a little bit more about how productivity can be connected to slow living without it not being productivity, actually? Because it's true what you said, that when you look online for content about productivity, when you follow people who are productivity experts, very often you have this image of someone who works I don't know, 12 or 15 hours a day and hustles and does more. And how do you connect slow living to productivity and to really being productive and not actually doing less than your competition, for example?
Oh, long story. So we'll begin with goals. And let's say probably everybody's life goal is to have that moment at the end of your life to look back and say, that was a good life.
Yes.
And so if we start there, it's clear that there's many more ways that we can spend our time than just achieving goals. And I usually share this concept of 4 types of time. Mm-hmm. So now we have a goal. We're recording a podcast. Okay, it has its goals. You will have a goal of publication. You have probably some long-term goal of, I don't know, being famous and rich. And maybe educate people and, I don't know, share your knowledge. You have some specific goals, and that's one type of time that we are achieving goals. But this is not the only one. We have also rest. We are charging our internal batteries. We are sleeping. We are reading books. We are going for a walk in the nature. We are spending time with people we love. This is something that we need for long-term sustainable productivity, because even if I do a lot today and I cut my sleep, tomorrow I'll do less. And if I continue doing that over a week or two, I just basically get sick. And many people know it, that, I'm working 110% for some time, or 20%, it works, but then you get sick and you lie in bed for a week and you just give back that time anyway.
Yeah.
But in this option, you don't have a choice. It's forced on you. And so I like that choice that I have, that, okay, I did a small loan from my body today, and so I'm giving it back tomorrow. It's basically works as a loan. So balance of goals to achieve and rest, and also relationships, and this creative time. That means you just start doing something without any clear goal in mind. You don't know where you're going. That's how kids usually play, An adult asks a kid, what are you building? And that's a perfect sense for an adult, which expects that this time is like a goal to achieve. Yeah. And the kid sometimes says, I don't know. It may be a rocket. It may be a castle. I don't know yet. So this is this creative process of that you don't know where you're going. You're just doing stuff and continuing and seeing where it goes. And we also love that in relationships as well, or dancing, music, and everywhere. In relationships, when you think somebody acts as a script, it gets boring and you usually don't want to spend time with that person. So there's always this balance of goals to achieve, specific goals in mind, and also this creative free time that usually is balanced by relationships and rest. And I think at the end of our lives, we ask ourselves, did we live according to our values? But usually we think about relationships we had, goals we achieved, and let's say this creative fun we had. And we need energy for that as well. So what I try to teach and pass to others is how to balance these 4 types of time, so you have the best tools to actually achieve your goals, but at the same time, allocate some time for creativity. That is, have a big problem in 21st century, because everybody is so goal-oriented that when you do something that hasn't any goal in mind and you played with, I don't know, even playing with YouTube for 2 hours, maybe a creative thing. You experience something you wouldn't experience normally. And then you take instrument. You don't learn any specific song, or you just play and see what happens. And then you play with kids and you don't have any educational goal in mind. You just play and see what happens. And so the thing I try to do is to maybe teach the best tools that we have in these all 4 types of time to keep them balanced. I think that's something that really makes long-term sustainable productivity, because then you're a happy human being that can, live according to your values, to your passion, to your talents, and at the same time think how you can bring value to the world. So I could talk about it for hours. So,
but do you think a kind of balance between those 4 elements is possible just by design, or you have to go through a phase of extreme productivity and then of burnout in order to get to those conclusions that you can take a loan from your body, or you can take a loan from your, I don't know, maybe relationship budget, but it's a loan, you have to give it back?
I think more or less people have such experiences. Even, if you're 20-something, you already have an experience of doing something you hate, or have problems with achieving your goals, or being sick because you overworked, or losing a relationship because there was too much focus in it or not enough focus in it. And so I think my role is to relate to such experiences and help people learn from that experiences. And the older you get, the more you have it, especially when you join the professional world and you have, let's say, a first 9-to-5 job maybe, and then 9-to-7 or 9-to-9, and then 7-to-9. So some people can relate, and I think that every emotional experience can help, because that's something that usually, emotions are something that are usually deep in our hearts. And if I talk about experiences, people usually say, okay, yes, I can remember that hurt a lot. lost relationship because of too much work, or not being present at the moment. Relationships hate it. That when you think about relationship as another goal, people immediately see it and feel it, and they don't want such relationships. And I think the older we get, the more obvious it is that, okay, it's relationship that counts, that we need, our body is not that young anymore. We need to balance it with rest, and especially good quality rest. And then you see these ambitions were sometimes a little bit empty. It was to maybe impress your parents or impress a girl, or but it's not making you happy in the long term. So I think, yes, of course, with experience comes more and more emotions connected to that you can relate to. But even in the early 20s, you have, I think, enough experiences that make you aware and learn.
So maybe the good strategy to achieve the balance between those four elements and enjoying slow living is actually limit productivity as much as you can to sustain a level of living, a level of comfort in your life, and then see what happens.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of a few things here. First is retrospective, looking at the past and maybe reflecting on what happened and how you can improve that just a little bit. And so to achieve, I perceive productivity as connection of these four types of time, not only goals to achieve. So that's important. And with goals to achieve, we have this. So productivity, if we define it, is an effect divided by the, let's say, amount of energy you have to spend to achieve that effect. So increasing productivity means with the same amount of energy spent or money, you get bigger effect. Mm-hmm. Or you get the same effect you have right now with less, spending less energy. Or it would be great to have both. So you have, with less energy, you get more results. And if you know Pareto principle, you know that 80% of effect comes from 20% of the energy. So we can always optimize the thing. So we need to be curious what 20% of energy give us 80% of value. Mm-hmm. That's basically maybe the one of the biggest principles of productivity of goals to achieve time, or maybe others as well. But so, yeah, in order to achieve the same effect, we have to optimize the way we spend our energy. And when we do it, we know that there is, let's say, spare time that we can allocate to these other types of time to actually balance it. Mm-hmm. And the more you're balanced, actually, the more energy you have to optimize it even more. And so I think it's like a construction that in the lives of many people is like off the vertical line. And then you're just helping people swing a little bit so they come back to the normal vertical position. But that's few cycles of retrospective, like every few weeks, months, what you can do about each type of time to actually improve it just a little bit. So I don't think that you have to like give up productivity in order to achieve balance. I think it requires just having a stop and reflection moment of, okay, I'm busy, but from my activities, 80% of value I get right now is from 20% of time. If I can lower my expectation, if I can lower what I achieve by 20%, my productivity goes 4 times, because I can achieve that with just 20% of energy. And then it's a hell for perfectionists, for example, because for them, 100% is actually 200%. And giving up is the thing that we have to manage somehow. But for most people, maybe lowering expectation a little bit and then working on spending the energy is something that we just need to optimize. And then there's this time for the resting. But even in my courses, when people sometimes, in a 30-day course, one of the days is actually do nothing, or have your list as minimal as you can and try to observe how you feel about that. And many people write, I feel guilty that I do nothing. I could do more. I don't know even how to spend that extra time. And this is a big reflection on, I'm becoming a machine. Okay, I'm just producing all the time. I can't even lie down for an hour and feel okay about that. We're living in a crazy society. And
it's a skill. It's a skill actually to do nothing.
Yeah, and feel okay with that.
Yeah.
And so this is. But when they go through this day and they finish it, and the next day usually I got reports like, wow, I have so much energy to actually push the things that are now going very smoothly. And so sometimes my role is to just give people experience that enable them to, okay, so now I know how it works. It's not a theory. But if I charge my internal batteries to like 90 or 100%, then I can push my goals with greater energy, passion, and without much procrastinating. And I think this is the way it works.
What are your strategies to avoid procrastination? Just give yourself some time to reflect and do nothing, or have you?
So procrastination can have many different sources for me, and we probably have to talk about all of them, because procrastination is a syndrome of something you can see. And it always comes back to few sources. Mm-hmm. One of the source, so I probably have to start making mental maps to cover them all. Let's say the first root of procrastination is that things are too big. That's probably the most common that I experience. People don't work on the projects they would like to work on, mm-hmm. because they are so overwhelmingly. You probably know the word. They are too big, and people get
overwhelmingly too big.
Yeah, they are overwhelming for people,
yeah.
And so what we do usually as a strategy in that moment is whenever you see you cannot progress with something and it created this mental tension, you just cut it into smaller pieces. And so if you have a month project, cut it into, 3-4 stages, and then just the first stage into few small steps the first step you have to be able to achieve within 2 hours. And that's usually creates this energy of, oh, I made the first step. Maybe I'll do the second step. And it feels so good that you suddenly are progressing with something that in your mind was stuck for several months sometimes, that usually it's enough for people to just start working. So first thing is things are too big. And if you think about cell phones and this 21st century era, everything's becoming so simple. You don't need to cook. With one click, you have a food at your door in 15 minutes. Yeah. You don't need to, so things get very, very simple today. And unfortunately, we have to do the same thing to our projects. The first step has to be so simple that switching to Facebook, Instagram, or news or other things is not that nice anymore, because you see, with this one small step that I can achieve, within 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or 1 hour, I can really push things forward. And so now it's becoming tempting, not overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So that's thing number one. Number two is sometimes we are just overworked. Okay. And this procrastination is our body telling us, slow down and take some rest. And then when you think about pushing yourself to another task, your body is telling you, no, not today, not today. And so you do whatever to just keep busy because you need some sense of progress. But at the same time, if you think, so I usually use this analogy of a cell phone. If you wake up in the morning and you realize your cell phone didn't charge overnight and it has 30% battery, and you're not sure you will be able to charge it during the day, you use it completely differently from the phone that was charged overnight, and you can charge it anytime you want.
Yeah.
And so this is the same that happens to our body. And if people realize, I usually ask this question in my course, so what is your long-term battery right now? If you were a device and you were to give me like the battery level you have right now, what would it be? And so the average from over 1,000 people right now is, guess what? 55%.
I would say 70.
It's 55. I have the average calculated from like few hundreds or almost 1,000 samples. And so this is how people rate their level of energy.
This is scary because 55, it's half the living basically.
Yeah. and some people are at 10 or 20 and some are at 100. But like the average is 55, which means if you have a phone with 55% of battery, you probably don't use it that much as you could. And actually, this realization comes to people that actually, if I took some rest or maybe deal with my broken relationships, or I slow down and deal with my body or my diet or my exercising or my free time, my passions, hobbies, actually, this may be the most productive thing, because if I get from 55 to 80, I can achieve more, but also I'm a more happy person.
Yeah.
So another thing is usually when it comes to procrastination, if you're overworked and you just need some extra time this week to just relax, have some time to reflect, be good with yourself and your body. That's number 2, I think. Number 3 comes from something that in Poland is so common, which is guilt and shame. Mm-hmm. Because we don't progress with projects, we blame ourselves. Oh, I really should be doing this. Oh no, I'm so bad. And people start, beating themselves. And this is actually the way that most addictions work. Yeah. That you feel so bad about it, you want to kill it with something, anything. Just give me anything to kill that guilt and shame. And so I have a phone. It has so many things that I can get distracted with to not feel that. And so that gives me this pleasure for just at least few minutes. Mm-hmm. But then when I put down the phone, I realize I didn't push anything forward.
So and more guilt
and shame. And so this is how this cycle closes. And with many people, we have to cut this cycle and say, guilt and shame won't take you anywhere. It's a downward spiral. It's a dead cycle. And if we can do anything to change guilt and shame into curiosity, then we're at home. Okay. Because I don't push that project forward. The deadline's coming. I'm so bad. No, I'm not so bad. What's happening? Why am I not progressing? I don't have enough energy. There's lack of clarity. So the strategy for such people is usually more curiosity and less guilt and shame. And I think the 4th type is basically, it's an addiction already. So addiction that works this way, that you have a shot of dopamine and you cannot basically stop it. And most social media and news are created the way that they want to be addictive. Yeah. They want you to spend time in front of them, and they are really good in that. So I don't fight with that. You don't fight with drinking or drugs. I'll try harder. It doesn't work that way. With drugs and alcohol, we're serious. Okay. And with such, if you think that's addiction, we have to fight it as an addiction. And so most of the devices right now can actually stop you from using these applications. You can configure yourself, your phone. I think all phones for the last 2 years have this option of screen time and blocking applications. Yeah. I have 15-minute Facebook limit every day.
I have deleted Facebook from my phone 2 years ago.
I'm using it through the browser to avoid flood of notifications that distract me. But I like it. I like Facebook for the things that for this 15 minutes a day, I get a sense of, there are concerts that I wouldn't go to because people invited me to them. And there are some news that I see that through the wall, many people share more or less the same news. And so that means that's alive in many people right now. And I get a sense of what's going on. But then the problem is it can drag you so much that you spend an hour or 2 on Facebook every day. And so that's why I have a limit. And my phone tells me, okay, you have 5 minutes left. And it's like, oh.
Only.
So I have, I like it, but at the same time, I know it's addictive. It's the same way with many things that are positive and can give positive effect to your life, but they are addictive very quickly, and you have to have a prevention mechanism, just not to be dragged into it. For example, I love wine, but I have to have prevention mechanism to not love wine too much because there is a certain point that it's becoming a problem.
My prevention mechanism as far as wine is not to have more than one bottle at my house.
No, so I have I'm looking at them. I think I have 10.
It would be very dangerous for me.
All right. Yeah. So that's one of the prevention mechanism. For me, it's a group of friends that that sometimes like give me feedback or ask me how often I drink, for example, because they know I love wine, and then, okay, so how many days in a row you're drinking wine? And then say, okay, that's the first, and I had like 3 days break. Okay, that's good. But we need to have it because we know when something is a pleasure and we like it, then we can get addicted pretty quickly, especially when you want to escape some maybe emotions you don't really feel comfortable with.
Yeah. Our smartphones, I think, are better at that than wine, because if you start drinking wine, that you will reach a certain level when you will not be able to drink anymore because you will be lying on the floor. With a smartphone, not so much, you know.
Yeah, that's one part of the story, and another is that it's socially much more acceptable.
Yeah.
You know, when I would be drinking too much wine and, I don't know, meet with you today, you would see it, and maybe not with the smell, but in one-on-one relationships or when I join a group, they would immediately know, and that wouldn't be nice. But everybody is using a phone. And by the way, most of the people I work with are addicted for their phones. And they are so...
Really? No. Really?
They feel so guilty about that, and they think they are the only ones, that everybody else is fine. And so when we talk about it, it's like, oh, so you fight the same thing. Oh, it's so encouraging that I'm not the only one. And it's much more socially acceptable because you don't know if on the phone you're, I don't know, doing something productive or you're just, I don't know, scrolling social media or news.
Basically, you think when you're looking through Instagram, you think that everybody else is thinking that you are planning your day in your calendar.
Yeah. Yes.
But I wanted to ask you about digital detoxes, but you started to give me your perspective already. So, but could you please elaborate a little bit more? Do you think that because of smartphone apps and because of all those engineers that work very hard at maximizing our time we spend in those apps, that digital detoxes should be something something we do often and on a regular basis in order to counteract these addictive mechanisms?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, and not only that. We had this beautiful concept that's a few thousand years long, and it's called fasting.
Yeah,
and fasting gives an opportunity for organisms to reset some things that usually work in cycles, and some of these cycles are dead cycles. And it's like boiling a frog. You don't feel things. If you increase it by 1% every day, you don't see it. But when you stop it, you realize you're missing it. And I'm a big fan of fasting in most of the forms. And with cell phones, we get so big shots of dopamine very quickly and very easy that we are getting addicted to it. And so this fasting or this detox is bringing our, let's say, dopamine levels to normal, because we are like supercharged. It's like touching the most sensitive piece of our skin with something that, you know, really our body overreacts. Mm-hmm. And I think this digital detox bring our, let's say, dopamine expectation to a normal level. And then if you ever, I have that experience with food as well. I usually once a year for 2 or 3 weeks, I'm I'm, let's say, fasting, I go for a vegetable and fruit diet, which mostly vegetable, which is called usually Dieta Dąbrowskiej, or something like that, that you cut carbohydrates, you cut fats, you basically clean your body. And after this period, no coffee, no sugar, nothing like that. And after 2 weeks of such thing, you eat a sweet, and it's so sweet, it's disgusting almost, because I'm bringing back my sugar expectation to normal, and then I realize how sweet is everything right now, because I reset my body to a normal expectation. And so fasting in any form, I'm a big fan. Just once every few months, few weeks, or 1 day without screens every week, or no screen hours. So some people say, okay, after 9 p.m., I'm not using my phone. Some people buy a special alarm clock to not bring cell phone into their bedrooms. And everything like that, I'm sure it will bring positive aspects to the lives.
Besides fasting and besides making gaps in screen time and in using technology, what other strategies which are analog and not technology related you would also suggest besides digital detoxes?
Yoga and meditations are strategies. They can work, not for everybody, but I think one piece that I would everybody to practice is let's call it mindfulness of being present in the moment. And there are many various forms. Some people learn that mindfulness through exercises, because that get them connected to their bodies again, which normally you don't even now I can ask a question, okay, how are you breathing right now? And the moment you realize, you probably slow down with your breath a little bit.
I can slow down because you asked the question.
Yeah. This is this mindful moment that you realize you're in the moment. And I meet so many people that drink great coffee, they eat great food, and they don't even experience it because they are always somewhere else. And so one of the experiences is that I would love everybody to practice is this kind of being present. That means when I drink coffee, there's coffee and me. That's it. And every sip is like a journey. And when I'm talking with you, I'm there with you and I'm fully present. I don't think about goals and I don't know, other things that may happen. And this is a practice. There's something that we have to learn because our brain is so much distracted usually and, kicked with dopamine and anything else. And so coming back to the question, what can we do? There are many forms. Physical exercises work for some people pretty well. That you mentioned yoga. Okay, if yoga works for somebody, for me, this measurement is, are you present? Okay. And for me, yoga, okay. You said about meditation. Okay, meditation is also when you learn how to breathe and count and maybe your body awareness. If that helps you, I would do it. But the overall, then ultimate practice is being present. You're being present in a mountain or while you're taking a walk, I would do that. Just basically, it's like a muscle. The more you practice it, the quicker it gets for you to switch to that mode. For example, sometimes I'm in a rush, I do things, and then it's a moment and it's 5 seconds of I'm realizing I'm in a room. What's the smell? How my body feels? How I breathe? Something hurts in my body. There's a really nice light in the room. Oh, I have a new leaf on my plant right here. And so it's get me connected to the moment. It can be just 3 or 5 seconds. But that's something I would practice a lot. And it's one of the mechanisms that help us also realize what we need. And sometimes among, these 1,000 tasks in this mindful moment, we realize I need some rest. And your body tells you. And now finally you're able to hear it. or you remind yourself about some relationship that needs your attention, or you feel so much bored then you think, I need a creative evening today. Okay, I'll get so much fun with my kid. He will be overwhelmed. This is, I think, number one for me, because it's also increasing people's satisfaction from their lives a lot. Because it's in all this rush that we have and goals to achieve, and even in rest, we feel this pressure and tension. And you're lying on a sofa, and it can be some form of exercise or meditation or whatever. But I'm here. I'm on a sofa. My body's okay. How is my breath? I'm feeling happy about my relationships. That relationship is broken. Maybe I'll call her. And you have this 5-10 minutes of being connected to your emotions, to your thoughts, to your body, and that really help people be happy. Basically, that's
maybe people are in need of those breaks of awareness, of presence, because they get so focused on their goals, their KPIs, and something that is really measurable that they think that they can put it away. So it's like in a professional career. What is socially acceptable is that you will work 30 years and then you will retire. And it's with Tim Ferriss's for our work week that the concept of a retirement that you are using bit by bit during your life, that is has come to a socially acceptable level, I think. But earlier on, everybody just put away the time, your life, and maybe that is what is happening right now with awareness also.
And there's one more component that's really that I find really interesting after training so many people and having tons of discussions about it. I realized that actually work and being busy is also one of the forms that we are escaping what we feel. And so the most busy people are usually the most uncomfortable with how they feel. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm uncomfortable how I feel, this present moment actually will be, for me, really painful. Because when I stop working, I realize, actually, I'm not going anywhere. Or my family is broken, I will earn some more money, but that's not the goal. And, there, in this moment that you stop, there's painful realizations. I'm getting old. My body is, it's not that young anymore. And it's actually fairly easy to escape that pain by engaging in another activity. And then you have this label of, oh, yeah, what a productive guy. He's busy. He's like, wow, he's doing so many things. And it can be the case, but it also may be a case that you, or somebody else is basically feeling so uncomfortable with how you feel that actually work is one of the forms of escaping it. The other form acceptable today is being fit. I think there are two addictions. There are like counter addictions. They make addiction cycles, but they are socially acceptable and even admired. So drugs and alcohol and porn and other stuff may be really, like, if people know it about you, it's like, oh, they are a little bit disgusted. But if there's a form of compensation, like being fit, that you're going for a gym 5 times a week, and then you're this hyper-productive guy that works 14 hours a day, then, whoa, yeah, they admire you. Even though the psychological mechanism is exactly the same, that you're escaping how you feel. And I think it's important to add, especially today, and especially in this, let's say, world of productivity that's so obsessed. And I met so many people that are overworked, burned out, and need emotional help. And they think that they get this emotional help by working more or more effective. And usually sometimes for them, the cure, like long-term cure, is to stop and reflect and let all those emotions that are there like go outside. Because the older you get, the more you have it and the more painful it gets. Yeah. So yeah, maybe that's too philosophical, but This is
No. It's okay. You are the first productivity expert I know that is basically saying that maybe the way to being more productive and more efficient in what you are doing is doing less.
for me, productivity goals. My obsession is imagining this guy, Piotrek, at the end of his life, looking back at my life and talking with me sitting right now in front of you and saying, okay, Piotrek, what did you do today to actually make me more happy when this is the last day? Is it what you're doing right now helping that or not? And in many cases, that perspective, that's a real productivity, let's say. That's a 30, 40, 50 years perspective. To have that moment, I need strong relationships. I need goals to achieve that are aligned with my passion. And I feel that I brought value to the world. That's usually how these surveys are defined, so their outcome. Usually people, let's say, die happy when they have strong relationships and they achieved some goals that are in line with their passion and they feel they brought value to this life, to life of others and this planet maybe. And so this is this optimization point that we need. And working more today is nice. I like it. That's how my productivity journey started. I loved achieving goals, and if you know Gallup Strengths Test, achiever is one of my top themes. It's like I start my day and I need to achieve. That's basically how I am, and that's how it all started. But then this obsession of this 60, 70, 80-year-old Piotrek, looking back at his life and imagining what was the actual productivity and what was maybe faking and cheating myself to just avoid discomfort.
But aren't you afraid that people with whom you are working and to whom you are giving this advice will very, very soon come to a conclusion that a major part of their professional lives is completely useless and should be changed, which can be a really painful realization when you are 40 or 50 and you know that you are at the half basically of your life.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same. I'm all the time I'm realizing how much time I wasted, and but it's a journey anyway. We learn, we fail, we improve, and we just go for some more. And maybe that's why I hate social media so much in these days, is that you're using it too much. You start comparing yourself to some absolutely unrealistic pictures of how your life should be. And that's, I always compare it to Matrix movie. If you've seen Matrix, the Neo jumps from one building to another, and after watching that movie, it's a movie. Okay, yeah. You don't go to the top of the building and jump because it's a movie. But then we scroll this movie on our phones and we think this is the life. People have great vacations, great marriages. Their kids are so great. Everything works. The professional life is flourishing. And then you somehow start comparing yourself to that, and that's making you feel low a little bit and escape a little bit more. But yeah, this painful realization, once you get it and then you go through it and improve something, I think this is a constant cycle. This is also how our planet works in rhythm. Right now we are talking, this is start of the autumn in Poland. We see leaves falling, and then we'll have this winter, which will be, cold as usually. It lasts for like 9 months. And then it's alive again, and it's like a miracle. And I think this rhythm also, what I love about Poland, is that we also get all 4 seasons. It's not like every day is the same. We get all seasons. They are all beautiful in some ways. And our life, I think, is also in cycles. We have every day, there's a rhythm every week, and then maybe a year. And And if I look at our grandparents and that generation, in winter, they were doing not much because there was not much light. They were mostly reading. They had really busy months behind them. And so they were taking time to work on relationships, to read and recharge. And we don't. It's like constant run. And then we like...
There are people in Poland that take vacation during the winter that go to Spain or to another country where there's no such cold winters, in order basically to escape this cycle, you know.
No, that's fine. Do whatever that works for me. You know, if I know that people can be tired with darkness and feeling cold, and that's also okay. Maybe also that change help people realize how nice it can be, and also not feel too much overwhelmed. I think our weather can also be overwhelming for many people that are really...
It can, but you made a good point. I think that you are unable to appreciate the spring and appreciate the summer if you have not lived through the Polish winter.
Yeah, I think I appreciate it. Maybe it's a miracle every year that it all seemed dead, you know, and then in a week or two, you go to a park and you see like everything flourishes so much. It's a miracle. By the way, it's a nice nice exercise for being present. Like normally, there are only maybe 2 or 3 weeks in a year that this miracle happens, and I try to maximize that time also and be outside and see how something without any force happens on its own. It's not that there is a productive guy telling to trees, okay, grow up, you can change.
There is a KPI, you have to be ready by the spring.
It's a nice realization that some things need to be pushed, and maybe you know that if you move a plant or you protect it with some string or some line, that it's leaning maybe to one side, and then you help it. But these are usually subtle changes. The biggest, I think, value is got from natural mechanisms that are already there. And if you understand them, you can maybe work with them, not fight with them. I think that's also a big lesson that I get from nature for my productivity. First, I have to understand my own cycles and how they work. And if I'm leaning to one side, I need a line, a rope, or something that will like keep me straight for some time. It may be a relationship, and maybe a productivity partner, it may be a therapist, whoever. But I need to work with that, not, use force like, hey, Piotrek, be straight. Because that's always for a moment. It's always for a moment. And in nature, we don't have that. Oh, we got very philosophical now.
No, it's okay. This kind of philosophy is absolutely... it's absolutely what I'm looking for in those conversations.
Nice.
We have talked extensively about analog strategies and not technical things. We have told our listeners that smartphones are evil. And now I'd like to ask you, what is your favorite app? So,
first thing, smartphones are not evil. That's something I have to say. Smartphones are tools. But smartphones are tools that can make things easy. Unfortunately, some of the things that are easy are the things we want, and many of the things that are easy with smartphones are not good for us. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like a hammer. You can put a nail with a hammer, but you can also kill somebody with a hammer. But hammer is a tool anyway. You have to know how to use the tool and not kill yourself with it. And I think this is how about smartphones. My favorite app, I need to look at the front screen. I think for me, 2 apps that help me live is calendar and a task list. I think these are 2 tools that if my smartphone had only 2 applications, that would be it. A calendar that I don't miss a recording for podcasts like this, and I don't have to think about it even. There is a reminder. I'm able to make some important decisions based on something that I can trust. And the same with the task list. Okay, I'm meeting deadlines with the projects. I'm pushing my critical projects forward, and it's with a minimum use of energy. So it's not like I'm sitting down, okay, so what's the next step? Or what do I do? It's like, I did it once, I spent that energy once, and now I basically need to just go and do it. And so for me, that's probably a calendar and a task list and a note-making application. But for me, it's also, pictures, Spotify with music. It's my great help. Spotify, I can't imagine living without that. But I don't use actually many apps. Like most of the apps I use are really basic.
And which task manager do you use?
So I'm a nomad. I change tools because that's my work, to know as many tools as possible to help people choose the right tool. Right now I'm with ClickUp. ClickUp is actually one of the most powerful applications that's free and really nice and really recommended to many people. In Polish, I recorded a screencast of actually how it looks and how you can use it. You can find it on my YouTube. But for many people also, I would recommend TickTick, which is also an app that's very simple, nice, working with many features and also pretty extensive number of features in free application. And I think my favorite choice is these two. But also, I usually recommend to people knowing few applications and see which one fits their style. Because some people like style of Todoist or Nozbe or any other app that's there available. I think there are probably 10 most popular apps in this area. Microsoft To Do or Asana or AnyDo. Yeah, there are many, many apps. But then there's this one that really fits your style. And for me, two apps that really fits how I work and the way I like. I use my phone pretty extensively because I have a lot of thoughts. And if I want write down something, I need a tool that I like. And I like TickTick and ClickUp the most. And don't ask me why. It's just emotional way of, I just like them. That's it.
Okay. I think that they are pretty similar because both of them are actually making possible to time block on a calendar.
Yeah, I use calendar only for things that are tied to a specific time, like this podcast or the meeting I have at specific hour. And without that, so besides that, I usually keep my calendar empty. So if there is a hole in my calendar, sometimes for the entire day, this is the time that I work on tasks that I can, do and perform them and complete them before the deadline. If I worked in a very busy team and my calendar got crowded very quickly, I probably would block my time just to avoid having meeting in that times. For example, my tomorrow is completely free. I have nothing in the agenda. Mm-hmm. And if I worked in a team with a great dynamics, I would probably schedule a meeting from 9 to 1 p.m. just to avoid having this time blocked by anybody, because that's probably one of the most productive days this week when I will achieve like 80% of this week goals, let's say. So calendar for me is for things tied to time, and task list is for anything else that I can freely move until the deadline. And so these two tools like cooperate with each other. I never know what will be my energy level tomorrow. Maybe I'll come, I wake up with a great headache. Mm-hmm. This is why I don't put specific tasks in my calendar, because I don't know. But if I have more or less a plan in my task list, that's usually my list of tasks for a day is between 5 and 10. Mm-hmm. I can really reschedule them pretty flexibly by drag and drop. Or realize I don't have enough energy to complete one of the biggest tasks. It seemed like Wednesday is a good day, but unfortunately not. And so this quick rescheduling is something that is really important to me. And this is why I use task list. Calendar will never give it to me. Okay. With calendar, if one task is done, not done, and you need to move it, you have to manually move the other things as well. So it's not the optimum way for me.
And if you could have just one piece of analog gear, just one, what would it be?
Analog gear for productivity?
No, just one thing, one analog thing, but only one.
Is headphones an analog thing?
No.
Yeah, good headphones is something that bring life. I'm looking, with my flat. I think two things that help me live is one is the musical instrument. Is it analog?
If it's an acoustic guitar, it's analog.
Yeah, it's for example handpan or acoustic guitar. Yes, so one instrument that I can play as a absolutely opposite of what having goals and being productive and using screen. It changes my brain into completely different mode. That's one thing. And second thing probably is a plant that I'm looking right now. I try to have many plants in my room because that's and the view from the window is also some trees and grass, and it also helped me get connected to, let's say, myself and nature, and let's say manage energy levels as well. So probably analog things I would invest. Actually, in my case, is plants and instruments.
Fair enough. Okay, so thank you for being a guest on my podcast, and please tell us where can we find you online, and tell our listeners also something about this amazing Udemy course with an astonishing number of positive reviews.
So my name is PIOTR NABIELEC. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's one way to connect. I run Produktywni PL in Polish. This is like a hub site for whatever I do. I have a course in Polish, Produktywność krok po kroku, which is productivity step by step. This is a 30-day course that you can join me 2 times a year. I'm helping people get through a 30-day process of getting their chaos organized, balancing their 4 types of time. It's like short lessons, short exercises. One is happening right now, and usually they are early spring and early autumn every year. And so that's one thing also to find me, and I think this is the way that you can get most of my time and help. And then I have this Udemy course, which is in English and have Polish subtitles. It's right now I think it just crossed 2,000 reviews, and basically that's like a pill. So I heard so many things and techniques about time management that I decided to make like a 1 hour 40-minute course that just packed with the best practices. And you can find it on Udemy under my name and Practical Time Management. If you also type practicaltimemanagement.com, it will redirect you there. So that's something I have right now. I'll probably work in the next months on some more English content. I'm planning to do webinars in English. And I think the landing page that I probably next month will be 4stepproductivity.com. And this is like this how to achieve balance in these these areas, and there will be like 4-step productivity. So probably this is something that you can find me more and more in coming months. But right now, Produktywni and just 2 courses, and social media, LinkedIn, and Produktywni on Facebook. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Piotr, and have a nice day.
Thanks, great questions. Bye bye.